The alarm cut through the silence of the Coalition Command Center like a knife. Captain Junho Kim looked up from his datapad as the massive screens filled with red warning signals. Around him, representatives from 48 different alien species stopped their conversations and stared at the display. Incoming distress signal from Refuge Station Gamma, the automated system announced. Critical emergency, solar instability detected, supernova imminent. Junho's stomach dropped. Refuge Station Gamma was a mining colony on the edge of known space. He knew there were people there. Thousands of them. The screen updated with more information. 8,000 colonists. The number glowed in red. Admiral Thren of the Valkorians stood up. His amphibious body gleamed under the lights as he studied the data. "Show us the details," he commanded. More information flooded the screens. The star near Refuge Station Gamma had become unstable. Something had gone wrong in its core. The scientists predicted it would explode in 96 hours. 4 days. That was all the time they had. The station's evacuation systems are damaged, a Thornid analyst reported. The insect-like creature's multiple eyes scanned through the data rapidly. Solar radiation has destroyed their transport ships. They cannot escape on their own. Junho felt his heart racing. Then we need to get them out, he said. We need to send rescue ships immediately. The room fell silent. Admiral Thren turned to look at him. Captain Kim, let me show you something. The Valkorian pulled up radiation readings. These levels are already beyond our shield capacity. Any ship approaching the station would be exposed to lethal radiation. A Thornid collective representative spoke next. Its voice was emotionless and mechanical. We have calculated the probability of a successful rescue mission. The chance of success is 4.7%. The chance of losing our rescue fleet is 95.3%. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Junho stood up. There are 8,000 people on that station. 200 of them are human. But even if there were no humans there, they're still people. We can't just leave them. An elderly Dalmar being materialized near the center of the room. The Dalmar were energy-based creatures, ancient and wise. Luminous, as this elder was called, spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere. Captain Kim, we understand your emotional response, but we must consider the greater good. If we lose multiple fleets trying to save these colonists, we risk more lives than we save. All life ends eventually, Luminous continued. Perhaps this is simply their time. Junho couldn't believe what he was hearing. Their time? They're calling for help. We have ships. We have the ability to try. The ability to try is not the same as the ability to succeed, Admiral Thren said. He didn't sound cruel, just practical. Captain Kim, I have seen the death of entire fleets. I will not order my people into certain death for a 5% chance of success. One by one, the representatives of each species stood to cast their votes. The Valkorians voted no. The Thornids voted no. The Dalmar voted no. The Kryn, the Soltari, the Mixari, every species voted the same way. No, or 47 species voted against the rescue mission. 0 voted in favor. Only Earth's vote remained. Junho looked at the expectant faces around him. He knew what they wanted him to say. They wanted him to accept their logic, to agree that some lives couldn't be saved. I abstain, he said quietly. I need to speak with my crew. The vote was recorded. The Coalition officially declared Refuge Station Gamma as lost. They would send no help. 8,000 people would die and the mighty Coalition would do nothing. Junho walked out of the command center in a daze. His ship, the Steadfast Dawn, was docked nearby. He moved through the corridors without really seeing them. His mind was full of that number. 8,000. 8,000 lives. When he reached his ship, he called an emergency crew meeting. His senior officers gathered in the briefing room. Dr. Hana Park, their chief medical officer, arrived first. Engineer Taewon came next, wiping grease from his hands. Lieutenant Yuna Choi, their pilot, sat down across from him. Minho Kang from Communications and Nari Song, their cargo master, completed the group. The Coalition held a vote, Junho began. He explained everything. The dying star, the stranded colonists, the radiation levels, the impossible odds. Every species voted no. They've abandoned those people. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Hana spoke. 200 humans are on that station. But even if there weren't any humans there at all, there's still people who need help. Taewon pulled out his datapad and started running calculations. Our shields are older technology than the Velkorian ships. Less sophisticated. But maybe that's good. Less sophisticated means more adaptable. I think I can modify them to handle the radiation better. What's our success probability? Junio asked. Honestly? Maybe 10%. Maybe 15 if everything goes perfectly. Taewon looked up. But we've beaten worse odds before. Yuna leaned forward. Captain Humanity didn't get to the stars by playing it safe. We got here by doing things everyone said were impossible. That's kind of our specialty. Minho nodded. I can boost our communication range. If we get in trouble, at least we can call for help. Nari spoke last. We'll need to reorganize the cargo bays to hold more people. I can make it work. Junho looked at each of them. The Coalition says this mission is suicide. They might be right. I won't order anyone to come. This has to be a choice. Then I choose to go, Hana said immediately. Me too, said Taewon. I'm in, Yuna added. Minho and Nari both nodded. We're with you, Captain. Junho felt something tight in his chest loosen. Then we're going. Tae, start modifying those shields. Nari, prep the cargo bays. Yuna, plot the fastest course to Refuge Station Gamma. Minho, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what we're doing. Should we ask for permission? Minho asked. No, we're not asking. We're telling them what we're going to do. If they want to stop us, they'll have to catch us first. The crew scattered to their stations. Hunyo sat alone in the briefing room for a moment. He knew this might be the last decision he ever made. He knew they might all die, but he also knew that doing nothing was worse than trying and failing. Hours later, a response came from Earth Command. Yunho read it aloud to his crew. Good, show them what humanity means. 3 more human ships are coming to help. The Steadfast Dawn and 3 other human vessels, the Unbroken, the Second Chance, and the Never Surrender, left the Coalition station together. Behind them, 48 alien species watched in confusion. The humans were flying towards certain death. It made no sense, but to the humans it made perfect sense. Someone needed help, so they were going. It was that simple. The journey to Refuge Station Gamma took 18 hours at maximum speed. For 18 hours, Junho watched the radiation readings climb higher and higher. They weren't even close to the station yet, and already their shields were working harder than they ever had before. Taewon worked without stopping. He rerouted power from every system that wasn't absolutely necessary. The weapons went offline first, then the luxury systems like the hot water and the recreational areas. He even dimmed the lights throughout the ship and reduced the oxygen levels slightly to save power for the shields. It's going to be uncomfortable, Tae told the crew, but uncomfortable is better than dead. The temperature inside the ship climbed. Everyone started sweating. The dim lighting made everything feel like a dream or a nightmare. But the shields held. That was all that mattered. Lieutenant Yuna sat in the pilot's seat, her eyes fixed on the view screen. Space ahead of them looked angry. The dying star was throwing out massive waves of radiation and energy. It painted the darkness with sheets of orange and red light. Beautiful and deadly at the same time. Debris field ahead, Yuna reported. Lots of it. The star's outer layers are already breaking apart. Can you navigate through it? Yunyo asked. Yuna's fingers moved across her controls. I can try. Everyone hold on. The ship began to weave through the debris. Chunks of stellar matter the size of buildings floated past them. One wrong move and they would crash. But Yuna's hands were steady. She had been flying since she was 16 years old. This was what she did best. Behind them, the 3 other human ships followed. The Unbroken, commanded by Captain Lee, the Second Chance, led by Captain Park, and the Never Surrender with Captain Hayes at the helm. 4 human ships against an exploding star. 4 crews who had all made the same choice. Incoming transmission, Minho announced. It's from a Velkorian observation ship. They're watching us from a safe distance. Put it through, Junho said. Admiral Thren's voice filled the bridge. Captain Kim, our sensors show that you will not survive the next major radiation wave. This is suicide. Please turn back while you still can. Thank you for your concern, Admiral, Junho replied. But we're not turning back. Why? The Velkorian sounded genuinely confused. Why are you doing this? Because someone has to. The transmission ended. Yunho could imagine the aliens watching from their safe distance, trying to understand why humans would fly into certain death. He didn't know how to explain it to them. He barely understood it himself. He just knew it was right. Approaching Refuge Station Gamma, Yuna announced. Distance 100,000 kilometers. The station appeared on their screens. It looked terrible. Whole sections were dark, their power gone. Other sections showed signs of fire and damage. The station was dying, just like the star nearby. Minho, open a channel to the station, Junho ordered. Channel open, Captain. Refuge Station Gamma. This is Captain Junho Kim of the human vessel Steadfast Dawn. We're here to evacuate you. Please respond. For a moment, there was only static. Then a voice came through, weak and filled with disbelief. This is Station Commander Rao. Did you say you're here to evacuate us? The Coalition said no one was coming. The Coalition was wrong, Junho said. We're here. 4 ships. We're going to get everyone out. But the radiation... Commander Rao was a Velcorian, just like Admiral Thren. Your shields can't handle this. You'll die. Maybe, Junho admitted. But we're going to try anyway. How many people are still alive? All 8,000, Rao said. We moved everyone to the central core where the shielding is strongest. But we only have life support for another 40 hours. Then we better work fast. Prepare for docking. Dr. Hana was already organizing the medical bay. She had called in every medic on the ship. They turned the cargo bays into emergency hospitals. Blankets, medical supplies, water, and food were all prepared. We're going to have wounded, she told her team. Lots of them. Radiation sickness, burns, injuries from the station damage. We save everyone we can. The Steadfast Dawn moved closer to the station. The radiation levels were incredible now. The shields were at 60% capacity and dropping. Taewan watched his screens with sweat pouring down his face. Shields holding, he reported. But barely. Yuna lined up the ship with the station's docking port. It should have been an easy maneuver. But the station was damaged, and the docking port wasn't responding correctly. She had to do everything manually, guiding the ship in by hand while radiation pounded against their shields. Almost there, she whispered to herself. Come on, come on. The ship shook violently. Alarms blared throughout the bridge. Huno gripped his chair. What was that? Solar flare, Taewan shouted over the alarms. Big one. It just hit us directly. The lights flickered. For a terrible moment, Junho thought they would go completely dark. But Tae's modifications held. The shields absorbed the flare barely. Shield capacity down to 40%, Tae reported. Captain, we can't take many more hits like that. We don't need to take many more. We just need to get these people out. Yuna docked the ship. Yuna's jaw was set in concentration. Docking now. The Steadfast Dawn connected to Refuge Station Gamma with a metallic clang. The other 3 human ships were docking at different ports around the station. Then another alarm sounded. This one came from Captain Lee's ship, the Never Surrender. Captain Kim. Captain Lee's voice was tight with pain. We just took a direct hit from debris. Our shields are overloaded. We've got hull breaches on multiple decks. Junho's heart sank. Can you make it? We're not going anywhere fast. Our engines are damaged. Captain Lee paused. But we can still dock. We can still take on evacuees. Captain Lee. We came here to save lives, Captain Kim. We're not leaving until that's done. Never surrender out. The channel closed. Hunyo looked at his crew. They all knew what Captain Lee had just done. The Never Surrender was crippled. Even if they evacuated everyone, that ship might not make it home. Open the airlocks, Junho ordered. Let's get these people aboard. The doors opened, and refugees began pouring into the Steadfast Dawn. They were scared and exhausted. Many were injured. Some were children crying for their parents. Others were elderly, struggling to walk. Nari stood at the entrance to the cargo bay, directing people where to go. Families with children this way. Injured people to the medical bay. Everyone else, find a space and sit down. Dr. Hana moved through the crowds, checking people quickly. You're okay, go sit down. You need treatment, come with me. You're stable, but I'll check on you later. The ship filled up fast. Yunyo had known it would be crowded, but the reality was overwhelming. His ship was designed for a crew of 200. They were about to pack in 2,000 refugees. In the engineering section, Taewan watched his life support system struggle. Captain, we're at 150% capacity. If we take on more people, we won't have enough air. Make it work, Junho said. We didn't come all this way to leave people behind. Tae nodded and bent back over his controls. He started shutting down airflow to cargo holds that were already full. He vented excess heat into space. He pushed every system to its absolute limit and then beyond. On the bridge, Minho was coordinating with the other 3 ships. The Unbroken has taken on 1,900 refugees. The Second Chance has 1,800. The Never Surrender has 1,600 despite their damage. Junho did the math quickly. That's 6,300. We still have 1,700 people on the station. We can take them. Nari's voice came through the comm. We can fit them. It won't be comfortable, but we can do it. For the next 6 hours, the evacuation continued. People kept flowing into the ships. The human crews worked without rest. They carried the wounded. They comforted the scared. They found room where there was no room. Commander Ral, the Velkorian station commander, was one of the last to board the Steadfast Dawn. He stood in the airlock and looked at Junho with his large, expressive eyes. "Why did you come?" he asked. "Your own coalition said this was impossible." Junho was exhausted. He was radiation sick. He was scared. But he smiled. Someone had to. But why humans? Why you? Because we're human, Junho said simply. We don't leave people behind. Not our people. Not anyone's people. The last refugee boarded. All 8,000 colonists were now on the 4 human ships. The ships were over capacity. Life support was failing. The radiation was getting worse. The star would explode in less than 30 hours. Undock all ships, Junho ordered. Let's get out of here. The 4 ships pulled away from the dying station, and watching from a distance, 48 alien species saw something they couldn't explain. The humans had done the impossible. 2 hours after leaving Refuge Station Gamma, the reality of their situation became clear. Junho stood on the bridge of the Steadfast Dawn, watching the life support readings with growing dread. The numbers didn't lie. They were in serious trouble. "Captain," Taewon's voice was hoarse. He had been working for 30 hours straight. "The life support systems are failing. We have too many people and not enough capacity. The carbon dioxide levels are rising. In about 6 hours, people will start suffocating." Junho felt cold despite the heat inside the ship. "Can you fix it?" "I've already pushed everything to the maximum. There's nothing left to push." Taewon looked at his captain with tired eyes. "We can't sustain 8,000 people across 4 ships for the 3-day journey back to Coalition space. The math doesn't work." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. They had saved everyone from the station, but now those same people might die anyway, slowly suffocating in the crowded ships. "Get me the other captains," Junho said quietly. Minho opened channels to the Unbroken, the Second Chance, and the Never Surrender. The 3 other captains appeared on the screen. They all looked as exhausted as Junho felt. "We have a problem," Junho began. He explained the life support issue. "We can't make it back to Coalition space, not with this many people." Captain Lee from the Never Surrender spoke first. His ship was the most damaged. "We could reduce the number of people, transfer some to the other ships, and—" "No," Junho cut him off. "We're not choosing who lives and who dies. We didn't come this far to play God. Then what do we do?" Captain Park from the Second Chance asked. "Because Taewon is right. The math doesn't work. We can't keep 8,000 people alive for 3 days." For a moment, no one had an answer. Then Lieutenant Yuna, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "What if we don't take them all the way back?" Everyone turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Shunyo asked. "We just need to get them out of the blast radius, right? We don't need to take them all the way to Coalition space in one trip." Yuna pulled up a star map. "Look, there's an old mining facility here about 7 hours away at maximum speed. It's abandoned, but the structure should still be intact." Minho leaned forward, studying the map. "We could take everyone there, get them safe from the supernova, then make multiple trips back to Coalition space with smaller groups." Taewon was already running calculations. Yes, that could work. The mining facility would have its own life support systems. Even if they're old, we could get them running again. Hope flickered in Junho's chest. How long would it take to evacuate everyone from the facility to Coalition space? Multiple trips. Maybe a week total, Minho calculated. But they'd be safe from the star. That's what matters. "Set course for the mining facility," Junho ordered. "All ships, maximum speed." The 4 ships changed direction. Behind them, the dying star grew brighter and more violent. Solar flares erupted like waves on an angry ocean. The radiation levels climbed higher. Inside the Steadfast Dawn, Dr. Hana moved through the crowded cargo bays. People were packed in so tightly they could barely move. The air was hot and thick. Children were crying. Adults looked scared. How much longer? A Thornid colonist asked her. His insect-like body was trembling. Not much longer, Hana lied. She didn't tell him about the life support problems. She didn't tell him they were in a race against time. She just smiled and moved on to the next patient. A young human girl, maybe 7 years old, tugged on Hana's sleeve. Are we going to be okay? Hana knelt down to the girl's level.
Yes, sweetie.
We're going to be okay. The captain and crew are taking care of everything. Promise? I promise. Hana hugged the girl and hoped she could keep that promise. In the engineering section, Taewon was fighting a losing battle. Every system was breaking down. The shield generators were overheating. The life support was gasping. The engines were being pushed beyond their limits. Red warning lights covered his control panels like a disease. Then the alarms started screaming. Captain, we've got a radiation burst coming in. Big one. Direct path. Shields, Hunyo shouted. Already at maximum. Taewon's hands flew across the controls. This is going to hurt. The radiation hit them like a physical blow. The ship shook violently. Lights flickered and died. Somewhere deep in the ship, something exploded. The shields absorbed most of the radiation, but not all of it. Hull breach on deck 3. Nari's voice came through the comm. Emergency bulkheads are sealing, but we've lost that section. Casualties? Hunyo asked, dreading the answer. Checking now. No, everyone got out. The section was empty. Junho let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. Status of the other ships? The Unbroken and Second Chance took damage, but they're still flying, Minho reported. The Never Surrender, and he paused. Captain Lee, respond please. Static filled the comm. Then Captain Lee's voice came through, weak and distorted. We're here. Barely. That radiation burst fried our primary systems. We're on backup power only. Can you make it to the mining facility? We'll make it. We have to. Another 6 hours passed. 6 hours of constant crisis. Small fires broke out and had to be extinguished. The temperature inside the ships climbed until people were passing out from heat exhaustion. The oxygen levels dropped until everyone was gasping for breath. Taewon worked in sections of the ship that were flooded with radiation. He knew he was being exposed to lethal doses, but he didn't stop. Someone had to keep the ship running. His engineering team worked beside him, all of them sacrificing their health to save others. Dr. Hana treated hundreds of people for radiation sickness. Her own exposure levels were climbing into the danger zone, but she kept working. She had medical staff collapsing from exhaustion around her, but still she kept working. On the bridge, Junho felt his own strength fading. He had been awake for more than 30 hours. The radiation was making him sick. He could feel it in his bones, a deep ache that wouldn't go away. But he stayed in his chair because his crew needed him to. Then finally Yuna spoke the words they had all been waiting for. There it is. The mining facility. Dead ahead. Junho looked at the view screen. The old facility floated in space like a ghost. It was dark and lifeless, but it was there. It was real. Take us in, Junho ordered. The 4 human ships approached the facility. They docked one by one, carefully connecting to the ancient airlocks. The Steadfast Dawn went first, then the Unbroken and the Second Chance. The Never Surrender came last, limping in on failing engines. As soon as they were docked, Taewon and his engineering teams rushed into the facility. They needed to get the life support systems online. They worked desperately, repairing decades-old equipment with whatever tools they had. Got it, Taewon shouted after an hour of work. Life support is active. Not great, but it's working. The evacuation began again. 8,000 refugees moved from the cramped ships into the mining facility. It was old and dusty, but it had space. It had air. It had a future. Commander Raoul found Junho as the last of the refugees were transferring. The Velkorian looked at the exhausted human captain. You did it. You actually did it. Junho slumped against a wall. We're not done yet. We still need to get everyone to Coalition space. But you saved us from the star. That's what matters. Commander Raoul hesitated. I need to tell you something. While we were evacuating, I was monitoring Coalition frequencies. They've been watching us, all 48 species. They saw what you did. So they're talking. They're questioning their decision. Some species are suggesting they should have helped. Commander Raoul looked at Junho with something like wonder. You're changing their minds. Junho was too tired to care about politics. We just did what was right. At that moment, a message came through on the comm. It was Minho. "Captain, you need to hear this. It's Admiral Thren." The Velkorian admiral's voice filled the facility. "Human vessels, this is Admiral Thren. We have been watching your mission. We calculated that you would fail. We calculated that you would die. We did not calculate this." Junho straightened up. "Admiral, we are coming to help. Velkorian science vessels are on their way to your location. We will assist with the evacuation." Before Junho could respond, another voice came through. It was the Thornid Collective. "The Thornid fleet is also coming. We have reconsidered our position. The human variable has changed the equation." More voices joined in. The Dalmar, the Kryn, the Soltari, species after species announced they were sending ships to help. Junho looked at his crew. Taewan was covered in burns and radiation sickness. Hana could barely stand. Yuna's hands were shaking with exhaustion. They had given everything they had, but they had done it. They had saved 8,000 lives, and more than that, they had shown the galaxy what humans could do. "Thank you," Junho said to the incoming ships. "We accept your help." In the mining facility, the refugees cheered. They were safe from the supernova. They were going to live. And the impossible mission was no longer just a human mission. It was everyone's mission now. The first alien ship to arrive was a Velkorian science vessel. It came out of faster-than-light travel in a flash of blue light, and Junho watched it approach the mining facility with mixed feelings. Part of him was grateful for the help. Another part remembered that these were the same species who had voted to abandon the colonists. Admiral Thren's face appeared on the screen. He looked uncomfortable, which was unusual for a Velkorian. "Captain Kim, we have medical facilities aboard. Please transfer your most severely injured to our ship." Dr. Hana didn't wait for Junho's order. She was already organizing the transfer. "I'm sending 50 patients with severe radiation poisoning. They need better treatment than I can provide here." More ships arrived over the next 2 hours. Thornid transport vessels, huge and efficient. Dalmar energy ships that glowed with soft light. Even the Kryn and Soltari sent vessels. Soon there were over 30 alien ships surrounding the old mining facility. Nari coordinated the chaos with skill that impressed even the Thornid logistics experts. Velkorian ships take the wounded. Thornid vessels handle the bulk evacuations. Dalmar ships provide shield support for everyone. "Why are they helping now?" Lieutenant Yuna asked Junho privately. They said no before. Junho watched the alien ships working together. "They saw what we did. Sometimes people need to see what's possible before they believe it can be done." The evacuation became a massive joint operation. Species that had never worked together before were coordinating like a single organism. Velkorian doctors treated Thornid colonists. Human engineers showed Dalmar beings how to repair old systems. Everyone worked toward the same goal. Inside the medical bay of a Velkorian ship, Dr. Hana met with their chief medical officer, a Velkorian named Kess. Hana's own radiation levels were dangerously high, but she refused treatment until all her patients were cared for. "You need to rest," Kess told her. "Your body is shutting down from radiation exposure." "After everyone else is safe," Hana said stubbornly. "I made a promise to a little girl that we'd all be okay. I'm keeping that promise." Kess studied the human doctor with his large eyes. "Your species is either very brave or very foolish. I have not determined which." "Maybe both," Hana admitted with a tired smile. In the mining facility, Taewan was teaching a group of Thornid engineers his improvisation techniques. The insect-like beings were fascinated by his methods. "This should not work," one of them said, examining Tae's modification to a power relay. "The efficiency is only 60%. "But it works," Tae said. "Sometimes good enough is better than perfect, especially when perfect isn't possible." The Thornid tilted its head. "An interesting philosophy. We will add this to our collective knowledge." On the bridge of the Steadfast Dawn, Minho was coordinating communications between all the different species. It was complicated because each species had different communication protocols, but he made it work, switching between languages and formats without missing a beat. "Captain Kim?" A Dalmar elder called Radiant appeared on his screen. "I wish to speak with you privately." Junho moved to a quiet corner of the bridge. "What can I do for you, Elder?" The Dalmar being floated in space, its energy form shimmering. "For 3,000 of your years I have observed lesser species. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I thought I understood the patterns of life." The Elder paused. Then I watched your species fly into certain death to save others. I do not understand you. It's not complicated, Junho said. They needed help. We could help. So we did. But the risk was worth it. Junho looked out at the stars. Every life has value, Elder, not just human lives. All lives. If we only helped people when it was safe and easy, we wouldn't be much good, would we? The Dalmar was silent for a long moment. You sacrifice the certain for the uncertain, the logical for the emotional. This is contrary to all my understanding. Maybe that's the problem, Junho said gently. You're trying to understand it logically. But some things aren't about logic. They're about what's right. The evacuation continued for hours. Slowly, steadily, the 8,000 colonists were transferred to the various ships. The human vessels, battered and damaged, would carry only small numbers. The fresher alien ships took the majority. Captain Lee remained on the Never Surrender even though his ship was barely functional. He had transferred all his passengers to other vessels, but he and his skeleton crew stayed aboard. Captain Lee, why haven't you evacuated? Junho asked over the comm. Because someone needs to monitor the star, Lee replied. Our sensors are damaged but still working. I can track the supernova countdown and warn everyone if it comes early. That's a death sentence if something goes wrong. Then I'll die doing something useful. Lee's voice was calm. Besides, someone taught me that humans don't leave people behind. Well, I'm not leaving until everyone else is safe. Junho felt emotion tighten his throat. Understood, Captain. Thank you. The hours ticked by. The star behind them grew brighter and more unstable. They were running out of time and everyone knew it. Then with 90 minutes until the predicted supernova, the last colonist was transferred to safety. 8,000 people all accounted for, all alive. All ships prepare to evacuate the area, Junho ordered. Maximum speed. We need to clear the blast radius. The fleet of ships, human and alien together, began to pull away from the mining facility. The Never Surrender came last, its damaged engine struggling. Come on, Lee, Junho whispered. Come on. Suddenly alarms blared across every ship. The star was collapsing ahead of schedule. The supernova was beginning 90 minutes early. All ships, emergency burn. Junho shouted. Get out of here now. The fleet scattered, every vessel pushing their engines to maximum. The space behind them began to twist and distort as the star collapsed in on itself. The Never Surrender was falling behind. Its engines couldn't match the speed of the other ships. Captain Lee, eject your crew in escape pods, Junho ordered. We'll pick them up. Negative, Lee responded. The pods won't move fast enough. They'd be caught in the blast. There was a pause. But I can use the pod's fuel to boost our main engines. It might give us enough speed. That would leave you with no way to escape if the ship fails. I know. Lee's voice was steady. Tell my family I died doing something that mattered. Before Junho could respond, the Never Surrender suddenly accelerated. Lee had done it. He had sacrificed the escape pods to boost the ship's speed. The supernova erupted behind them. The star exploded in a burst of light and energy that made the view screen automatically darken to protect their eyes. The shockwave raced after them like a wall of death. We're not going to make it, Yuna said, her voice tight. The shockwave is moving too fast. Then something incredible happened. The Dalmar ships moved backward, positioning themselves between the fleet and the shockwave. Dozens of energy beings linked together, forming a massive shield. What are they doing? Minho asked. Elder Radiant's voice came through the comm, strained with effort. We are learning what it means to care. The Dalmar beings absorbed the brunt of the shockwave. Their energy forms flickered and dimmed, but they held. Behind their protection, the fleet raced to safety. The Never Surrender was still at the back. The shockwave was catching up to it. Captain Lee's ship was seconds from being overtaken. Engines are failing, Lee reported calmly. It's been an honor serving with you all. No. Unyo stood up from his chair. Taewan, can we... Already on it, Captain. Taewan's voice was grim, rerouting all power to the tractor beam. The steadfast Dawn, battered and barely functional, turned around. Unyo watched in awe as his ship moved back toward the approaching shockwave. Taewan activated the tractor beam, locking onto the Never Surrender. Got him. Pulling him in. The steadfast Dawn dragged the Never Surrender forward, both ships racing together. The shockwave was right behind them, close enough that they could feel the heat through their failing shields. Come on, Junho whispered. Come on. They cleared the blast radius with seconds to spare. The shockwave dissipated behind them, its energy spreading out into harmless radiation. For a moment, nobody spoke. They were alive. All of them. Against impossible odds, they had survived. Then the cheering started. It began on the human ships and spread to the alien vessels. 8,000 colonists celebrated. Dozens of species shared in the joy of success. On the Never Surrender, Captain Lee sat in his command chair and wept with relief and exhaustion. On the Steadfast Dawn, Junho's crew collapsed where they stood. They had nothing left to give. But they had given enough. In space, the Dalmar beings regrouped. They had expended enormous energy protecting the fleet. Some of them were barely maintaining form, but Elder Radiant sent one last message now. We understand. The impossible mission was complete. Humanity had stepped up when others abandoned hope. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. 3 weeks later, Captain Junho Kim woke up in a medical facility he didn't recognize. The walls were white and clean. Soft light came from panels in the ceiling. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was or how he had gotten there. Then memory came flooding back. The mission. The supernova. The evacuation. He tried to sit up and found his body didn't want to cooperate. Everything hurt. Easy, Captain. Dr. Hana appeared beside his bed. She looked better than the last time he had seen her, but still tired. You've been unconscious for 2 days. Your body needed time to recover from the radiation exposure. The colonists? Junho asked. His voice was rough. All 8,000 are safe and healthy. We didn't lose a single person. Hana smiled. We actually did it. Over the next few days, Junho learned what had happened after he collapsed. The coalition had taken all the colonists to their best medical facilities. Velkorian doctors, Thornid specialists, and even Dalmar healers worked together to treat everyone for radiation sickness. Engineer Taewan was in a bed 2 rooms away. He had received the highest doses of radiation from working in the damaged sections of the ship. The doctors said he would need months of treatment, but he would fully recover. Lieutenant Yuna had been released after a week. She visited Junho every day, bringing him news from outside.
The whole galaxy is talking about us, she told him.
What we did. How we saved everyone when the Coalition said it was impossible. Where are we? Junho asked. Coalition Medical Station Delta, it's the best facility they have. Yuna grinned. They're treating us like heroes. We're not heroes. We just did what needed to be done. That's exactly what makes you heroes, Captain. On his 8th day in the medical facility, Commander Ral came to visit. The Velkorian looked healthy and strong, completely recovered from his ordeal. Captain Kim, Ral said formally, I wanted to thank you personally. You and your crew saved my life and the lives of 8,000 others. We owe you everything. You don't owe us anything, Junho said. We're just glad you're safe. Why did you come? Ral asked the question that everyone seemed to want answered. Your own species voted to abstain. You could have stayed out of it. Why risk your life for strangers? Junho thought about it for a moment. Because they weren't strangers. They were people who needed help. That's all that mattered. Ral nodded slowly. Admiral Thren asked me to tell you something. He said he was wrong. The Coalition was wrong. And they want to make sure it never happens again. 2 days later, Junho was released from medical care. He was weak and would need more treatment, but he could walk and function. His crew gathered around him, all of them looking battered but alive. The Coalition wants us to attend a special assembly, Minho told him. Every species will be there. They want to address what happened. The assembly was held in the Grand Chamber where the Coalition made its biggest decisions. Junho and his crew entered to find thousands of beings watching them. Representatives from all 48 species were present. Elder Radiant of the Dalmar spoke first. The energy being floated at the center of the chamber, visible to everyone. For 3,000 years I have existed, Radiant began. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I believed I understood the universe and its patterns. Then I met humans, the Elder paused. When Refuge Station Gamma called for help, we calculated the risk. We analyzed the probabilities. We determined that the logical choice was to do nothing. We were wrong. Admiral Thren stood next. We Velkorians pride ourselves on careful planning and risk assessment. We saw the radiation levels and concluded that a rescue was suicide. When Captain Kim and his crew flew into that radiation storm anyway, we thought they were fools. The Admiral looked directly at Junho. We were the fools. We let our fear control our choices. Humans taught us that courage means acting despite fear, not in the absence of it. A Thornid collective representative spoke next. We calculated a 4.7% chance of success. We deemed this unacceptable. But humans showed us that some things cannot be measured in percentages. Hope cannot be calculated. Determination cannot be quantified. These are the variables we failed to include in our equations. One by one, representatives from every species stood and spoke. Each one admitted their mistake. Each one praised what the humans had done. And each one proposed changes to make sure it never happened again. Finally, it was time for the vote. A new set of protocols called the Refuge Protocols. New rules that said no distress call would go unanswered. No life would be considered an acceptable loss. Every rescue would be attempted no matter the odds. The vote was unanimous. 48 species voted yes. The Refuge Protocols became law. They called it the Human Doctrine. When the votes were counted, the coalition asked Junho to speak. He walked slowly to the center of the chamber, still weak from his injuries. 8,000 colonists watched from the gallery. His crew stood nearby. The entire galaxy was watching through broadcasts. "I'm not good at speeches," Junho began. "I'm just a ship captain. But I want to say something about what happened." He looked around at all the different species. "We didn't do this because we're special. We didn't do it because humans are better than anyone else. We did it because every life has value. Every person matters. That's not a human truth. That's a universal truth. We just refuse to forget it." Junho's voice grew stronger. 200 of those colonists were human. 7,800 were not. We didn't calculate which lives were worth saving. We saved them all because they were all worth saving. The coalition asked what humans would do when others abandoned the mission. We answered with our actions. We did whatever it took. We risked everything, and we proved that impossible just means nobody has tried hard enough yet. The chamber erupted in applause. It started with the colonists and spread to the representatives. Soon, beings from 48 different species were standing and cheering. Many of them had never even applauded before, but they learned how to show respect the human way. In the following months, everything changed. The coalition used the human doctrine to launch rescue missions they would have previously abandoned. They saved colonies from natural disasters. They evacuated stations from war zones. They helped everyone who asked for help, and they succeeded. Not always easily and not without loss, but they tried, and that made all the difference. Dr. Hannah Park stayed in coalition space to train medical officers from 30 different species. She taught them human emergency medicine techniques. More importantly, she taught them to never give up on a patient. Engineer Taewan recovered fully from his radiation exposure. He became a teacher at the Coalition Engineering Academy. His course on improvisation and creative problem-solving became required for all students. Lieutenant Yuna continued flying missions, now commanding her own ship. She led 3 impossible rescue missions in her first year as captain, succeeding in all 3. Minho and Nari both continued their service, training others in communications and logistics. Their methods were studied and adopted across the coalition. Captain Lee of the Never Surrender received the coalition's highest honor for valor. His decision to stay behind and monitor the supernova had saved everyone. He retired from active duty but spent his time speaking to young officers about sacrifice and duty. 1 year after the refuge station Gamma rescue, Yunyo returned to Earth. He visited the families of the crew members who had died during the mission. 3 engineers and 1 medical officer had given their lives to save others. He stood in the living room of one family, searching for the right words. "Your son died a hero," Junho told them. "He gave his life so that thousands of others could live. Because of him, children grew up with parents. Parents kept their children. Families stayed together. The mother cried and thanked him. The father shook his hand. They showed him pictures of their son. Yunho mourned with them and celebrated with them, because that was what their son deserved. When Junho returned to the coalition, the steadfast dawn was waiting for him. The ship had been fully repaired and upgraded. Coalition engineers from a dozen species had worked on it, each adding their own improvements. "She's better than new," Taewan told him proudly. "Velcorian shields, Thornid engines, Dalmar power systems. This ship is a symbol now, a reminder of what we can do when we work together." Refuge Station Gamma had been rebuilt in a new location, safe from any dying stars. They renamed it Hope Station. A memorial stood in the center honoring the 4 humans who had died and Captain Lee's sacrifice in staying behind to give warning. The memorial had a simple inscription. They stepped up when others stepped back. Junho visited Hope Station for the dedication ceremony. The little girl he had saved, the one who had asked if they would be okay, ran up to him and hugged his legs. "You kept your promise," she said. "Yes," Junho replied, kneeling down to her level. "We all did." That evening, as Junho prepared to leave Hope Station, he received a message on his personal comm. It was marked urgent. A distress call from a mining operation in a dangerous sector. Pirates had attacked. People were trapped. The coalition was already mobilizing a response, but it would take them days to arrive. The people needed help now. Junho walked onto the bridge of the Steadfast Dawn. His crew was already there, checking systems and preparing for departure. They had seen the same message,